Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Trading Triangle. It's good to see you, Kaye. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Sean. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday to everybody who's watching. How's everybody doing today?
Yeah, I think everyone's doing pretty well. Been a pretty busy week, isn't it, last week? So obviously we'll jump into that. Quick disclaimer, obviously this is not financial advice. It's just a couple of guys on the internet talking about stocks, talking about charts. That's what we love to do. And yeah, I think we'll get straight into it with that. Obviously,
And
at the end, we do go through audience requests, so do stick your audience requests in the comments. Kay will be writing them down, I imagine, which is good
I
to hear.
would, yes, and make sure you subscribe to Wolf. You subscribe to the
Yes.
Trading Triangle and follow us on X as well. And make sure you drop the request in the comment section. And with that, let's get this rolling.
Awesome. So, where are we? What's going on here? There we go. So, last week's performance was not so good, was it? I mean, it was a bit all over the place. Lots of red. You can see Amazon there, -6%, NVDA -8%, Google -4%. All the big boys kind of coming down a little bit. I think there still might be room to run down as well. What are your thoughts on that one? Or what are you
I,
looking at?
I think I would say the same. And with the earnings now picking up, especially for the big tech, Netflix
Mm.
actually did pretty well last week. Tesla comes up next week, the coming week, I think Tuesday or Wednesday, they report earning. And then we will have the other Max 7 reporting earnings with Microsoft, Facebook, and all that. Um, but yeah, I would say that we still have room to go down, especially with the big run up in QQQ and all the other stocks. But with that said, we did see some green, some other sectors like finance and, even in the energy sector, ExxonMobil was up. We haven't talked about energy lately, but yeah, I mean, I would say it's a pretty mixed bag over here.
Yeah, maybe it's something we can touch on next week with energy, perhaps. Like you said, obviously finance is doing pretty well. Obviously, banks are coming out of earnings. Pretty much all the banks done now. I think we've got Truist on Monday morning, and probably a couple of others throughout the week as well. So keep an eye on those. But most of them, I think, have been doing quite well, haven't they? Kay?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And you'll
exactly,
see in the numbers when we talk about the performance for the index, you'll see the reason why the energy and the banks are up.
exactly right. And with that, we will move on to the earnings this week. Well, no, sorry, we're going to here first. Still neutral. What are your thoughts around that? I mean, it felt like a bit more of a fearful week. Three or four red days in a row, maybe even five actually. And yeah, still
I
sitting in the
think
middle.
I think if you think about it, right, we were what last week we were, I think 1 week ago we were 54, we are 49, so it's not much of a difference. The what went up though is the wicks, and I'll talk about the wicks a little bit. Is I actually had a trade, I had a call option on wicks for expiration August 16th, and unfortunately I sold it last week. Sorry, the week before that, and I actually missed on this run. It went all the way from 1250, 1260 to 1652. So that's
Yeah,
definitely a lesson learned for me. But the put to call ratios pretty much has been in the same range for a while now. You can see we did see decline in QQQ, and that's what you saw in the previous slide. Uh, Dow was actually up, and we saw the small cap IWM up very slightly, but still they were in the positive. Of course, and Bitcoin was
yeah,
up over
Bitcoin
7%.
7%. It's a massive move for Bitcoin, considering obviously the rest of the market kind of taking a downturn. QQQ down 4.33%. The average correction is around 5 to 10%, and we're kind of approaching that kind of bracket already. It's only been 4 or 5 trading days, isn't it? Really. A few news events as well. We've got GDP coming in on Wednesday, I believe that is, or Thursday,
Thursday.
perhaps Thursday. Initial jobless claims, obviously interesting numbers every week that comes out there, and the US PCE on Friday, 1 hour before market opens. So if you are holding stocks through the night and through the week, just be careful when you're holding through on Thursday night. Obviously, it's going to be a bit volatile on Friday morning, definitely. And with that, we will move on to the charts. Nope, sorry, we've got earnings first, haven't we? Big week ahead. This is the first of the big weeks. I think the week after is going to be way more hectic. But this one's just kind of gearing us up. People are going to get very excited about this. But just be very careful when you are kind of trading around in and around earnings. It's exciting, but also quite dangerous. I think you might agree with that. But obviously, we've got Tesla, Alphabet, Enphase, Visa, all on Tuesday after market close. What other names pop out to you, Kay?
Lately, I have been looking into Chipotle after they did the split, so definitely I'll that is on my interest. Looking at some SaaS companies, ServiceNow is a big one that is reporting earnings, and for a lot of dividend investors, we have 3M, AbbVie, and a couple others like American Airlines reporting earnings. Um, so I think it's going to be a very interesting week coming up, and this kind of starts to build up how the index are going to perform in the coming weeks or so.
Yeah, definitely. Earnings can make or break, can't they? At the end of the day. With that, here's a SPY chart.
Uh,
Looks
sounds good.
pretty. I don't know. I mean, just have a quick snap to the QQQ. QQQ looks a lot worse, but obviously we'll get on stat in just a second. But the SPY has just broken that major trend line which we've been setting since basically the middle of April. And we said it a bit last week. I mean, the trend is your friend. Kind of follow it. It's a bit boring once it's above this trend line, but once it breaks, that's when the stuff gets interesting. So I've got a line drawn at 537 there, which is the kind of higher white line, and that's also a gap fill as well, and it kind of aligns with the 50 moving average. So it's interesting to see if it can kind of pull back to there. Very, very possible. What are your thoughts on that, Kay? Or do you see it going down further?
I wouldn't be surprised. I think a lot will really depend on the earnings that gets reported in the next week and the week after, especially with the Max 7 and all the bigger companies reporting earnings. The put to call ratio, which was expiring on last week, 7/19, the put to call was 3.28, which just goes to show there were a lot more put options open versus the call options. For the week expiring, which is 7/25, sorry, 7/26, it's 2.94, so still a lot more put options. So we are going to see a lot more hedging going on getting into the weekend for SPY. So I would say, keep a close eye on the trend, and especially with the earnings getting reported, there's just a lot more events happening this week which could push the stock further down.
Yeah, I think it's important to say it's not. You can always sit on your hands, let the market play out, and just kind of watch what's going on rather than having to think about trading in terms of, oh, I must trade this. Which way's it going to go? If you're not sure, you just sit out for a little bit, sit on your hands. I think that's probably the smartest way to do it. Obviously, opportunities come around all the time. So if you see your setup, go for it. That's kind of my thoughts between that. We do have a couple of comments on the side here. We've got Trump against EV cars, so Tesla will go to 120. I don't know about that. We'll see what happens there. Obviously, a lot in the media around kind of Trump and Elon Musk, etc. But this is probably not a place to discuss that, I think, so much. But yeah, obviously, keep putting those tickers in the comments on the side there, and we can get to them at the end of the stream. Um, Sweet. We'll move on to QQQ, shall we?
Yeah, let's do that.
This one is bleeding, isn't it? So we've got a big gap down on Tuesday, I think it is, and we've just smashed straight through the 20 moving average, which is that blue line coming down, coming through there, and kind of pushing right down towards that 50 moving average. It's not actually that far away. So we're currently at 475, and the white line I think is about 470. So that's minuscule amounts of percentages. So I think we could probably come back down there, even if it's briefly. And then that's where the next test is. That's where the next support is. If we break that, then things could get messy. We'll see. What do you think, Kay?
Similar, I would say QQQ is actually going to be more impacted with the earnings, especially with the Max 7 that are going to report earnings in the next 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if we see some. See, especially with Tesla right now, which is going to report earnings, supposed to have the 8/8 event. It got pushed out to October or so. So now the focus will be on the delivery numbers, and the future guidance seems to have been improving a little bit, but we'll see how that plays out. And of course, Google comes out now before the Friday event that happened with Microsoft and CrowdStrike, which we will get into a little bit later. Microsoft earning is going to be very interesting. I think a lot of people are going to watch Microsoft earnings, and then that is going to be a real impact, considering Microsoft is a very big proportion of QQQ itself. So, something to watch for.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, you could argue as well, just going back to the technicals on the QQQ, you can see obviously where we're kind of bottoming a little bit here on 475. Did actually have that around here as well, so it could be a little bit of an area of support even just here. So we could perhaps see a little bit of a bounce on Monday before even maybe a leg further down. Just wanted to add that in there for a bit of extra analysis there. Yeah, is that all we want to cover for QQQ? There's not really much else to really
No, I think
cover through, is there?
as we always say, trend is your friend. When it was going up, you just follow the trend, and if it's breaking down, now we have couple gap fills that we have to wait and watch, and especially with the earnings, which is every day we'll have something new.
Yeah,
We have to just keep watching this.
exactly. And with that, we will move on to my first chart, which is Tesla. Now,
Ooh.
this is actually the weekly chart, and you can see the performance basically in the last year and a half or so. Been quite negative, kind of trading within the wedge, and obviously we broke out of that wedge 3 weeks ago. And you know me, I like a breakout trade. It's a trend line breakout, which means it's pushed up. I'll use my little cursor for that. It's pushed up here with this candle, and obviously it's coming back down to retest this kind of line here. I put this red line just to indicate where the 200 moving average is on the weekly, and that is 233. I've got there, so we're kind of thereabouts. Obviously, we do have earnings on Tuesday, so I probably wouldn't touch this until then. Um, because it could go either way. It could go up 5%, it could go up 10%, it could go 15%, and obviously likewise in a downwards fashion as well. Um, so it'd be interesting to see what happens there. But just from a technical point of view, it looks like it could be quite a good setup if it was to kind of sit around 220, 230, and obviously depending on what happens with the earnings, that's the trade entry. What are your thoughts on Tesla? Are you sitting out of this one, or are you kind of waiting for a certain level?
So for me, I actually have been in a Tesla trade for actually a long time now. But regardless of the fact, I think for me personally, I am actually going to sit out this trade because I want to see how the trend plays out on this one. The on the If I draw the fib level, 238.19 is where I'm noticing there's a little bit of a support that comes in. There's not much volume there though. So
Mm,
really want to see if we are going to see further decline or 238 becomes like a new support level for Tesla. We don't have that many trading days happening around in this range, so I still want a little bit more confirmation before I actually decide on the next cycle of the wheel strategy for the range bound trading. But for now, I think there are still few gaps in this run up that we had for Tesla. So I wouldn't be
mm,
surprised if the numbers come out like buy the rumor, sell the new situation, and we see those gap fills happening. Because there is actually no more event after this until the big event that's going to be in October, I think.
yeah.
So this I'm going to
So
sit
we
out this one for sure.
set out, wait for a base, wait for a number, to wait for a bit of solidity. I think with the stock, yeah, I think that's smart. Um, we've got a few comments on the side here. Amazon down because Bezos sold too many stocks at 200. Quite possibly, he stole a lot of stock. But I think obviously Amazon earnings just around the corner, not this week, the week after. I think off the top of my head, so that'd be interesting to see if Amazon can perform well there. Another one here: short Tesla and thank me later. Well, we'll find out, won't we? Thank you, Ursa Capital, for the comments. Keep them rolling in. And if you've got any stocks that you want to obviously have a look at, or want us to have a look at, should I say, stick them in the comments. You seem to be doing pretty well with the comments at the moment. So, with that, we'll move on to the next stock, and we've got PayPal. Awesome. So this one I brought up just because I drew a trend line on Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, and we're playing around. Obviously, we've had a bit of negative price action. A lot of stocks have, and we've come down to this kind of trend line here. It looks like we've got a bit of buying coming in as well around this kind of 59, 58 level. So I'm looking for that to kind of bounce off this level and kind of move up. And what I really want to see is obviously to go straight through the moving averages and then back up to this line of 68. I am currently in a trade of PayPal, which of course you can see details of that on X. I'm not going to talk through it now. Be a bit long-winded, I think. But obviously, if it was to break this trend line, 58 is the support. And if it breaks that, could be nasty. Obviously, PayPal's been a bit iffy in the market recently. Not everyone's favourite, shall we say? But I mean, the fundamentals are still coming in strong, especially the last 2 or 3 quarters. So we'll see what happens with PayPal. What are your thoughts on PayPal? Where do you think it's going to go? Or
So they report earnings on 7:30, similar to SoFi pre-market. They will report earnings. It's not looking good. Your EPS revision in the last 90 days, there are 28 down revisions on this. Um, so they brought in the actual was 7.7 billion in revenue last quarter, and they are expecting a 7.81 billion. If you look at their earnings history, they are generally on top. They don't miss that many times, but they have missed earnings revenue a few times, and they have also missed EPS a few times. So it's not like a perfect score like some of the companies we talk about. um, I don't trade PayPal. I stay away from it, and I'm noticing Irsa Capital is mentioned that the company did not buy. No, I think it was like PayPal is the most hated stock in the world for sure. I don't know, man. There are a lot more
Yeah,
stocks
it was.
also. We can probably go through the list, but it's definitely not in the good books lately. At least has been for a lot of investors and traders. I think I would wait and watch for the earnings. It will be a play definitely post earnings if you want to do that. But because this is a very crucial event, because we could see a trend break here on this trend line, and we could see further decline unless we see a bounce based on the future guidance.
Exactly. It's interesting in the fintech space at the moment. You've got Hood kind of doing pretty good things as well. So, and obviously, you've got, you said SoFi as well, kind of moving up in that direction. Obviously, there's loads of different fintech names, but they're the three that are kind of the most popular, I think, with retail traders, PayPal, SoFi, and Hood. So we'll see how they kind of move together if they do that at all. But I think the 200 moving average, just to kind of summarize this, I think the 200 moving average would be ideal to get back above. I mean, you always talk about the 200 moving average. So it'd be interesting to see if we can get above that. We've got a few comments on the side here. You're writing these down, Kay?
Yeah, I'm writing
Any
all
cool?
the yeah, I'm writing
Awesome.
all of them. Yep.
Sweet. We will get to them. I think that's the end of my charts. You can find me on X with the handle Sean Trades. On YouTube, I've been going live a little bit more now recently. I'm kind of switching up my content strategy there, kind of going live a bit more. I feel like it's a bit more personal, etc. So yeah, I'll continue doing that. And I'm doing a Substack as well, kind of eToro portfolio updates written down, nice and detailed, so you can kind of follow along, see my thesis, see my perspectives, that kind of thing. So go ahead and check that out. And with that, we'll hand over to Kay with his charts. What do you got up first, Kay?
Awesome. So should not be a surprise.
Yeah.
CrowdStrike. The reason I brought this up was not because that there's a trade in place. It's more like a discussion point here, and want to get your thoughts on this. But what happened on Friday was, or maybe late Thursday night, when CrowdStrike pushed out a code, was a defect, and pretty much I think Friday was a mayhem all across the world, not just in the US itself. So now the begs the question, because we saw this massive drop. It was, by the way, only what 12% drop. So not a massive drop, and we do have the stock actually dipping very close to the 200-day moving average. So then this discussion started off is like, should we actually start buying CrowdStrike at these levels? The interesting point is that a lot of folks talked about upcoming lawsuit against CrowdStrike. We also saw a lot more conversations. Is Microsoft going to get into the cybersecurity space and actually acquire a company? So these are all valid points. And should we actually invest in CrowdStrike or trade CrowdStrike? I would say this is a very critical time for CrowdStrike. Friday was, I think everybody was dealing with the effects of what happened. So whether the stock price goes further down from here or not, or whether we see lawsuits or whether we see more news from Microsoft, I think that's going to be something that is going to be developing in the coming days or so. So, couple things. If you are an investor in CrowdStrike and your cost basis is much higher than what the stock price is trading, I would say definitely dollar cost average here. If you do not have a position, I don't think this is a good time to open a position, because you could see a further decline. So basically wait and watch. And if you're trading, I think if you're going to trade, I would still say see the trend before you actually get into the stock at this point in time. I would wait for at least the next couple of days to see how the story develops, because there is definitely going to be some kind of a backlash on this one, or some kind of a scrutiny. I wouldn't be surprised if CrowdStrike CEO has to go and testify in front of the Congress for what happened, because this was a major event. So I'll stop talking here. Sean, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think you hit on a major point there with obviously the stock falling dramatically, and kind of if you're thinking about entering, make sure you do all your research into the whole story, get all the facts, get all the figures. If you think it's kind of going to play out in a more positive fashion in the next couple of months, then maybe it is a chance to get in. But if you see CrowdStrike perhaps acting suspiciously, then perhaps the stock might follow in a downward trajectory. But after the news, it's an interesting one. I don't really have too much kind of opinion towards it. Obviously, it's a major event. Flights got grounded, etc. Even stuff at work kind of went down as well for millions of people. I don't know how many millions it actually affected. It was like 8 or 9 million or something like that. And the stock at one point in pre-markets, because I was kind of out and about in the morning, Obviously, here in the UK, pre-markets open at 9 a.m. So I was out and about in the morning. It was down about 25% in the pre-markets. And I thought, wow, is that an overreaction? And clearly, it's been brought up since then because you mentioned, what was it down in the end?
12%. Yeah, it was. It
12%.
was
So yeah,
yeah.
it recovered 12, 13%, just in the pre-markets, maybe just early hours market trading on Friday.
Yeah.
Um, is it an opportunity? We'll see. It's obviously part of a big ETF as well. I forget what it's called. I think it's LOCK, and the ticker symbol for cybersecurity. So that could be another way to get into it, perhaps, if you're kind of looking around kind of cybersecurity. Just takes the edge off a bit. It's not fully loaded with CrowdStrike stock. Obviously, it's all the other stocks as well, like Zscaler and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's another way of getting into it. It's kind of my thoughts. From a technical basis, there's not really much to look at because obviously it's been 1 day's trading, 1 day's of events. We'll see what happens in the next kind of couple of weeks or so.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Let's move on to the next one. So next one is NVIDIA, and it's been actually a very interesting play with NVIDIA. I think the semiconductor chips were all down last week as well, and I think there was a little bit of money has been moving out of the chips into the other, especially the mid caps and the small caps, with the whole IWM going up. But again, noticing here that we see a good support level at 117.93 for Nvidia, and we did had this small gap down from 125 going all the way to 117 or so. So that, again, if you are a day trader, you can definitely take advantage of playing this in this short range, because I do run weekly options on Nvidia, so this is the range that I generally am playing in. Again, if you're looking for a more long-term approach on Nvidia, I actually also have this gap up long-term buy zone between the, I forget what is it, 96 all the way going up to a little bit over $100. That's a long-term buy zone for me. Are we going to see that anytime soon? I don't know. Maybe we could if the geopolitical situation changes. But as of right now, 117.93 seems like a good support level. And then there's a lot of volume that happens over there. So, what are your thoughts on this one, Nate? Nate, sorry, Sean.
You do me a compliment there. Thank you, Kay.
Yeah,
And what I'm looking for here really is actually the RSI to kind of turn around. I don't know if I can somehow show that to the people. Hang on a second, put that there.
yeah, that's good.
So you can kind of see the line a bit more there. So the RSI obviously is quite low. It's about 44, and it's been traveling lower obviously for the last kind of couple of months. Well, actually about a month or so. And I kind of want to see that tick over, kind of tick back upwards, get people back into it, the interest back in. I think earnings will do that. Things like AMD and all the other semiconductors will kind of get the interest back into semiconductor stocks. Also SMH, which is the this semiconductor ETF. I was looking at that on Friday, and the weekly chart actually looks pretty good for a little bit of support around the 20-moving average on the weekly. So people might be looking to get back into that, which obviously is liquidity for Nvidia, essentially. So there's plenty to look for. I mean, you say you've got the kind of bottoming candle. If I see if I can get my mouse up there, bottoming candle, sandwiched between these two red candles, which means the buyers have come in at this level. So you've got that. Is that the 50-moving average there? Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
The 50-moving average. So that's obviously an interest for people, a buy interest for people. So it'd be interesting to see if we get a little bit of positive price action kind of in the next couple of days, really. And with that, I kind of want to see the RSI to move up. That was kind of my whole point there. If we get a couple of good days, I want the RSI to come back up and get a bit more interest within Nvidia, and subsequently, obviously, semiconductors overall. I'll probably start talking. You can kind of make my point there. I basically want to bounce now, and if not, then we're looking at breaking that and go down to your long-term buy zone, which I think you pointed out very, very nicely. Yeah, that's my thoughts on Nvidia.
Awesome, cool. So I think with that, we can actually get into the requests since we have a lot of requests here.
Well, do you want to tell the people where you can be
Yes,
found
you
first?
can find me on X at InvestK. I do post the trade updates there as well. So if you are interested in specific trade updates on options on specific levels when I bought, I post it over there. Do have a YouTube channel as well where you can follow. We do a lot of stock analysis there. And then, of course, with the earnings season kicking off, I will be probably writing a little bit more on Substack as well. So you can definitely check it out as well. So with that, Sean, let's get this rolling. Since we covered PayPal, I'm gonna delete that from there. You want to pull up Amazon? Let's start with Amazon first, and then we can
Yeah.
go through.
Let's get the charting ready. 1 second.
Beautiful.
Okie dokie, here we go.
All right, the first one, let's do Amazon. I'll pull up on my side as well.
This is a stock I like at the moment. I think a lot of people are talking about it on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Um, I think it was like 8 or 9 red days in a row, which is something
Mm.
crazy. It hasn't happened for many, many years. So that's obviously a point of interest. I've drawn a line here actually through the kind of chart. It's not the most perfect line, of course. You've got a bit of a breach down here, which is why I actually added this line as well, which didn't end up so well. As you can see on the screen, straight through that. I'm basically waiting for a bit of support around Amazon. Anywhere will do. Just need a couple of good days, and then perhaps maybe set a path, back to kind of 200 wise. But yeah, that comment earlier about Jeff Bezos selling a ton at 200 really did affect the stock, and probably the kind of mindset of investors as well to maybe just drop some. What are your thoughts around Amazon at the moment?
Yeah, I think you can see the general trend that is shifting from the Max 7. Most of these stocks, and if you actually draw a long trend line for Amazon, Amazon has been on the run for, I would say, the gap up that happened was all the way back in February. So since February, Amazon has been running up. And on the RSI, it has remained at the top level for a good chunk of 2 months, and then we saw a little bit of decline in that range. But pretty much, I would say let's just wait and see how the earnings play out. We could see this could be just a blip, that because we have seen this blip a couple times in this trend channel, and we could just continue to see that going back up. If not, then we will see the 200-day moving average slowly inching back up. But there is a gap. There is a gap up that happened back from, I think, let me
End of
see,
Jan.
end of Jan, right?
Yeah.
So that was trading at 159, and then we had that gap up all the way to 171. So that's a long term gap. I mean, unless something really big breaks, I don't see Amazon going down to those levels anytime soon.
No, I do agree. And obviously, you've got earnings around the corner. Spot this vertical line is here on the 1st of August, which is a Thursday. So next Thursday. So that'll be definitely one to watch. Amazon Prime Day, I think, happened midweek as well.
$14 billion. Yeah,
Yeah, well, that's not bad.
they're pretty good.
Yeah, I think that's I'll definitely
That's the
take
big,
that.
yeah, that's the biggest Prime Day they did. So I think from a fundamental standpoint, Amazon continues to improve. Once they report earnings, we'll get to know how the AWS is performing compared to the peers, Azure and Google Cloud. So a lot more focus on those. All right,
Awesome.
let's
What are we
move
up
to
to
the next
next?
one. We have ELST Lauder.
Cool.
Ooh, wow.
So these are all daily charts, by the way. At the moment, unless I change it, I'll let you all know in the comments or in the audience, should I say? And this one's been beaten up quite a bit, hasn't it, Kay? I mean, it doesn't look good.
Oh, it
Uh,
looks bad.
the turn of the year is the vertical line, so that's the beginning of the year, and it's just basically come up to kind of 200 move average actually, and kind of just basically rejected off that 4 times actually. Yeah, so it's not looking good. Probably looking for a base. Might have to jump out to the weekly to find that, depending if it's been down at these levels before, which I'm assuming it has. Uh,
I mean, weekly it doesn't look any better either. Like,
no,
it's
I mean you've got a bit of a resistance here way back in 2016, but that's I always find a bit, the older the trend line or the older the support slash resistance, I think it gets a bit weaker, in my opinion. But if people think that's a resistance way back in the past, then perhaps now is a support line. But it's hard. You have to wait for that kind of. So I'll zoom in a bit. You have to kind of wait for that buy trigger in effect to kind of come through. In which case you need higher lows kind of setting, and then you kind of get into it. Moving averages perhaps been broken. At the moment, you're just kind of buying a stock that you just kind of throw money into a pit. Would you agree there?
I agree with that. And then also the earnings are coming up mid August, 8/19. You
Yeah.
have 22 down revisions on that as well. So that's that. And with the CFO exiting, I think the next earnings call is going to be a little bit more dicey. So if you are, I mean, I don't know, I have never traded EL before, but if you're investing it, I think watch for the earnings and see how that plays out.
Yeah. Awesome. What are we
Okay.
on to next?
Next is Open, OPEN. Wasn't this the
Open
Chamath's
door.
SPAC that he brought up? I
I
think
think
so.
so. Yeah, this is
Yeah,
a real estate company, isn't it?
yeah, I think so.
It's had a pretty good last couple of weeks, despite obviously the last 3 or 4 days. But um, bit of a run from wow. It's actually $1.70. I swear it's a lot higher than that at one point.
It was if we go,
Wow. Here
yeah,
we go. This is
we were $35 almost, 34.59 all time high.
whew. You can see actually on the monthly a bit of a wedge kind of formed already. So we'll draw that. Oh, what have I done? Bear with me here. Yeah, a bit of a wedge. So you can see a bit of rejection actually the week just gone. So that's probably why it might have temporarily rejected that. So we can draw another line there. We all just love drawing lines. Here we go. Right. Into the weekly now. This is the weekly. You can see a big rejection now of the weekly. Even the 50-minute average is there. So I think probably actually letting this wedge play out would be the first thing that I look for, at least, obviously in my opinion. I think I'll probably add this to my long-term watch list, kind of general watch list, but nothing in my kind of shorter term, unless obviously, in case this breaks, of course. What are your thoughts there on the technical
I
side?
think I agree with your assessment here. I'll wait for the breakout to happen on the wedge, and but the only issue that I'm seeing is that on the fib level, if I draw the fib level, and if actually there is a lot more volume here at these levels of 320 and all the way from 280 to 320, so that is going to break the wedge.
Yeah,
Uh,
so
but
320 is here ish.
but then you do have resistance at the 460 level.
These
So
are big numbers as well, aren't they? So if you've got 240, even from 240 up to 320, that's
it's a
like
big run up.
30% or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting one to play around with. Yeah. I've added to my watch list for sure. What have
Okay.
we got next?
Next one I think is FLNC. Isn't that what you like? No,
I've
this
never heard of it actually. FLNC.
it's
What is
energy
it?
stock.
Oh, it's fairly new on the market. Inception is here, back in November last year. I don't
Interesting.
have that's weekly chart.
It's a lot of interesting tickers that we are getting from the audience. So thank you. Keep it coming along. Let's see.
Yeah, again, I mean, it's below the 200 moving average, so it's not
I
looking
mean,
like
there's
it's
no
going to be
200
a
average,
bullish market.
honestly. Like, it's not even been here 200. Like, it's not even forming that well enough. 200. There's not much data yet on this.
No, there's nothing obvious on the chart, at least just now. You want it to kind of get above the 200 moving average, like it briefly did here, but you want it to kind of act as support a few times, like it has resistance back here. So you want to act it as support rather than resistance, of course, unless you're playing a short. If I saw this on a 5-minute chart, I would perhaps look at a short on this one, and then obviously playing it down to the support level down here, 1343, which percentage-wise is not, it's nothing dramatic. What we're looking at there, 16%, actually not too bad. So yeah, there'd be a potential short there, back down to the support, and obviously, you could take a profit here and then maybe leave some on the table if it was to break even further down, and obviously then you have to go back to look at another support line. But yeah, there's potential for a short, but definitely I don't think one for a buy.
Yeah, I agree with this one. Next up is IONQ.
What's this one do? Again, a bit of another negative trend. Nothing's really going up so far on the suggestions.
It's a quantum computing systems in the US. It sells access to quantum computers of various qubit capacity.
Yeah, not the most solid trend line. I mean, it's not where I would normally start drawing a trend line. Obviously, you normally draw a trend line from the most recent peak, in which case it would be around about here-ish, I guess. It looks like it's kind of broken out of that trend, perhaps, and maybe come down for a retest, which you can't see because our faces are in the way.
Mhm.
Yeah, again, it's a tricky one to kind of play, isn't it? But you
I
want to see a bit of buying around this 20 moving average, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think that 20-day moving average seems like a resistance. It rejected two times in the last two trading days. There is a lot of volume shelf though above that. So if you're drawing a fib level, right, there is a nice range of I would say 989 all the way going to 1216. That's a good range, but seems like 20-day moving average seems like a resistance for now at least.
Interesting.
Yeah.
A couple of comments. Reader stocks have been doing pretty well recently. Yes, they are actually. I mean, realty income is one of those that I saw the other day, kind of, boosted back up to kind of 60, I think, ish. So that's interesting to see. Thank you very much, Hussein. Um, Again, Hussein as well. Are we able to do Bitcoin mining stocks, Hive blockchain? I'm sure we could bring that up. I've brought up Hive blockchain a few times on the trading triangle in the past. I do like Hive. It moves pretty quickly, pretty violently, at least in my experience.
Okay, that we can have I've added that on the list. So let's continue. Next up is AMD. Oh, love this one.
Oh, don't talk to me about AMD.
Did you
Once
burn your hands
again,
with
I
AMD?
mean,
Or?
yeah, I had a trade. It's now gone. So I can just delete that. So
Oh,
you can see my thesis. Obviously, I entered here. I wanted to kind of stay above here. It just gapped down because of the semi news and obviously Nvidia, all those kind of things. But it is actually a key point of support. So it could actually open up another trade potentially. Obviously, we'll see what happens in the next few days around the market, etc. But 200 moving average. This is
mhm.
what you like, Kay. Are you looking
Yeah,
intensely at AMD?
exactly. So I do have AMD for my long-term position. I am in a trade for AMD as well. But just like we saw, most of the chips were down because of geopolitical news, and of course, chips has been running along for a long time now. So I think it's good to see some kind of a sell-off so that they can cool off a little bit. But again, if you are an investor, these are the levels that you should definitely be aiming to add more to your position. And I think from a trading standpoint, I do want to see if we get a nice bounce for AMD at the 200 level, or do we see further declines? And if we do further see declines, I will probably add more. They also report earnings next week, so it's going to be very interesting. Um, I think a lot of eyes will be there on AMD on how they are going to be in the GPU market, and are they going to be even a competitor or not? So I'll definitely keep an eye on AMD for more trades.
Yeah, and that's just around the corner next Tuesday. As not
Next
this
Tuesday,
Tuesday, but the
exactly.
one after. Yeah,
Yep. All right. Next up is another good one, Square, that we often discuss here.
yeah.
And yes, I don't like this on the daily. This big red candle that we saw. That was a massive
Really.
sell-off. Yeah. And
So I
then
kind of
now
like that,
you like it. Okay, tell us why you like it.
just because it's coming down to all three moving averages here that are kind of converging into one. So to me, that's a pretty nice support. Now, if we had a good enough support resistance level, which we kind of do around this kind of level here, so I've kind of just taken over. I'll let you. So
Okay.
we've got a bit of support, a couple of resistance points, a little bit around here. So you've got that 66, let's say 66.50 as a decent enough support, and you could probably keep a fairly tight stop loss around 64ish, because then you could combine it with the trend line with all the kind of general slow moving up. So you're, what did I say, 64 stop loss there ish. So it's just, potential trade. Not too sure if I take it with the current market conditions, but I mean, the red candle, you say you don't really like it, but I kind of like it. That's the kind of way we go with different perspectives on this, on the trade triangle. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
because the
why
perspective
don't you like it?
changes if depends on what kind of a trader are you, right? So Sean is a breakout trader. He does day trading. I do options trading. So our levels are different. We look at the stock a different way. If you're selling options and trading, then you don't like stocks with a massive gap ups or gap downs. Whereas on a day trading, you can actually take a lot more profits, or you can actually make multiple trades on these. Um, I like the level honestly on this one around the 60. I would say 65 is what my level is on Square, and we had a massive run, so most of my puts that I sold were expired, worthless. So I'm actually now waiting for it to come to that level before initiating another trade. If not, I want to see how it plays out in forming a range here.
Awesome.
Cool.
Love the
So
different perspectives we have on here.
Okay, so I'm gonna skip couple of stocks and then we'll come back to them. So let's do Palantir because I know you have a good understanding on Palantir, and then we'll come to some of
Yeah,
the smaller ones.
well, I looked at this on Friday, and I just don't like these last two candles. Lots of sellers coming in around this kind of almost $30 level, which is exciting for Palantir considering where it was a couple of years ago. Um, all the way back here, just kind of early teens, I think it was, not so long ago. But yeah, really good performance. The important thing is we're above this kind of 27.50 line. Perhaps it's coming down for a bit of a retest before we move higher. But we do have earnings as well on
Yeah,
Monday, the 5th
85.
of August, yeah,
Yeah.
which is the vertical line you see on the screen. Um, yeah, I mean, these two candles don't fill me with joy, but what I want to see is a retest and a bounce off of this level here. Um, I think it's a potential trade opportunity as well. If you kind of, me, I like a breakout trade, and that's exactly what that is. I'll draw it out on the arrows here. So obviously coming back down, bouncing off here, making a move higher. You'd have to go back into the chart a couple of years to find another resistance level, but I'll let you guys do all of that kind of research. It's important to do your own research with these stocks. Just don't take our word for it, of course, because we're not financial advisors.
Mm.
But yeah, obviously we've got the 20 moving average as well coming up nicely. So if it was to kind of move sideways for a few days, it gives a bit more time for the 20 moving average to come up as well, which provides us a bit of confidence for our trading, which I think is very interesting. Very important for kind of traders to get that kind of confluence, the kind of extra edge, I suppose, on a trade. I'm going to stop waffling now. Have you got any thoughts on Palantir before we move on?
No, I think 29 is a interesting level because we did see this double top back in 2021 on Palantir, and then we saw that massive decline. We are coming around the same level again, so I really want to see. Hopefully, it's not a big decline. There is a gap fill that I'm actually looking for. That is between the 18 and the 1964. We talked about this one, I think, couple of weeks back, for a long-term position ad, not for trading, but for a long-term position ad. But as of right now, I think just wait and watch on how this plays out.
So that's a big gap, isn't it? You're talking about this one here.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that
Yeah, so
that
that's a
would
big
be
gap.
the long term where I would want to add to the position, but again, not for trading perspective, more for investing.
Yeah, no, of course. I think we'd have to see possibly a negative earnings report for that to kind of drop down that much,
Yeah,
or a bad news article or something like that. But at the moment, I think a lot of news that are regarding Palantir is going out pretty positive. Consistently signing new deals, consistently getting new price target increases, and the moves that it's making as well. It's a bit more consistent. Obviously, I know we've got a bit of a jump here, but generally, it's kind of moving slower, which you know it's nice. It's good to see.
all right.
Consistent moving. Right, let's move on.
Next move to ARM, ARM. It's another chip designer. So this one, if you don't want, I can quickly give you my opinion on this one.
Yep.
So on the fib level, I think the what level I want to watch is at the current level we have the biggest volume shelf. So this is definitely a very very good support level for ARM, at least in the last, I would say, month and a half. So a lot of trading happened at these levels. The level to watch out would be the 149.35, because if we break that, we do not have a good volume shelf all the way until probably 125 or so. That's when it starts to build up again. um Let me see, when is ARM reporting earnings? Should be,
I've got it here already. It's the 31st of
yeah,
July.
next week as well. So another stock to watch out for, especially the earnings. Thoughts?
Nothing really. I mean, you covered it quite nicely actually on ARM. That, like you say, kind of the level where we are now. Well, not now, but 149 ish.
Yeah.
And like you say, the next big volume is around 120.25. So yeah,
Yeah.
just kind of reiterating what you were saying.
Okay, so next move on to FOUR4.
Thank you very much, by the way, for all of these suggestions. It opens us up to more kind of perspectives around different stocks, different industries. So it's always nice to kind of pick up these stocks, isn't it, Kay?
Yeah, and then a couple of comments from Ursa. I recommended AMD to my friend. It dropped from 185 to 150 WTF. I will not recommend again.
No.
I think we have all been in this kind of a situation many, many times. So it's nothing unusual. I think there should always be a disclaimer. Anytime you recommend something or anybody who gets a recommendation, nobody should be buying or trading stocks just because you heard from somebody. And same goes with us, right? You're asking for our analysis. We're just telling you what we think. Doesn't mean it's going to happen.
No,
Uh,
of course.
and then Avi says, "Love your analysis, guys." So really appreciate Avi. Can we see gold analysis? We can definitely look at couple gold ETFs, but let's go through the tickers that have been requested first, and then we'll see if we have enough time. We'll touch gold as well.
Awesome.
Go for it.
Yes, I mean, my immediate thoughts is see if we can kind of hold on to this 200 moving average. This is the daily chart. I don't even know what they do, to be honest with you. Must
It's
be
a payment. It's a payments. It's another fintech kind of a company.
okay, right. Yeah, so just holding on to this 200 moving average. If it doesn't, then perhaps there is a short in play. We're looking at this level of around 60, let's say 64, just as a round number. And if that breaks, we're looking obviously to next kind of major support around about 57. So there's potential short there as well, and that's probably about 13% off the
Yeah,
top of
and
my head.
and Sean, the
Not
the last again, you see this big candle, the day I think Thursday trade. Well, that's a
oh,
big
yeah.
candle. Yeah, it's a
It's always alarming when you see a big candle like that kind of wipe out 4 or 5 trading days before so. And likewise, in the other direction, if you have like a particular stock that's coming down for 4 or 5 days and you get a big green candle, then that's also quite bullish. That's quite exciting because obviously the buyers are coming in at a certain level to getting a bit more excited around the stock. So just be careful of those big candles that come in on
okay.
your charts.
All right.
Yeah,
Next one is NEM. It's Newmont Corporation. What do they do? Let's see.
this one's a bit more exciting, a bit more of a
This is
trend.
actually somebody. This covers. They do production and exploration of gold, copper, silver, zinc, and lead. So I think kind of it's a
It's like a
commodity
sympathy play for gold.
stock. Yeah,
There's a lot of gaps.
there's a lot of gaps. Exactly.
I guess if it's playing around the futures market, which obviously commodities tend to do, you are going to get a lot of gaps, aren't you? Because there's lots of movements in the out of hours
Yeah,
after.
and we don't cover commodity as much on this channel as I think we have covered energy a lot, but commodities we don't cover that much. What are your
Saying that, there's actually only 2 gaps that I can see. I thought there was more than that. There's another one down here. Yeah, I mean it's a tricky one. I mean it's obviously following a trend. I mean I could probably get more excited if it came down to this level here to fill up this gap, because you've got the 20 moving average there. You've got the line which is about $44, and obviously you've got the kind of trend line floating around there as well. So that's a bit of confluence kind of around those levels. But apart from that, not really looking. It's a bit of no man's land at the moment, basically. Is what I'm looking at. I would like to add this to my watch list. Actually, I might do that just now. So
and
thank
just
you for
just
whoever brought that up.
just to add to what Sean said, the range from 44 to 48.97, there is really not much volume going on there. Most of your volume is in this range of 41 to I would say maybe 44 or 43, something like that. So keep that in mind as well. Okay. All right. So we
Awesome.
covered. Next up is LLY. I think it's
Lily,
yeah another big stock.
Eli Lily. Wow, look at that red candle. Oh,
Oh, why did that happen? Did they report earnings? No, they report earnings
no,
on 8/8. So what happened?
that's a nasty candle. What's the RSI on that? Yeah, quite low. Back down to 35 RSI. Not as low as I'd like to see it for buying opportunity, probably more towards kind of 20, 25 RSI is what I'd like to see.
This is the least shorted stock on S&P 500. The short interest is 0.67, less than a percent. Amazing.
If it was to continue going down further, then perhaps 794-ish would be a good level to kind of get interested, shall we say? because we've got lots of resistance around here on the left side of the chart. Okay, 1,
Exactly.
2, 3, 4, 5, 5 points of resistance, and a little bit of a breakout retest. This is actually a good example of a breakout trade. So obviously we've had lots of points of resistance. We've broken out. We've come back down and retested it, and it's just gone powered higher, which is what I like to see in a trade. Not predominantly, but it's one of my strategies.
So if anybody who knows, who's watching, if they know why we had this massive drop down or the gap down on this stock, let us know in the comments, because I cannot find anything in the news that why we had such a massive drop on Thursday.
They said it got approval in China, but that sounds like good news. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good news. That shouldn't be a bad news. So I'm not sure why, but okay, let's keep moving. So next is GDX.
GDX.
I think that's gold, right?
Yeah, it must be.
Yeah, it's a
Gold miners
ETF.
ETF.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Nice positive movement on this chart. No trend as such, because there's no. I mean, you could draw a line here, of course. Let's get that on the chart.
I mean, if you look a little bit long term, it still is it's an upward trend right now. Making higher highs.
Similar to that Newmont stock we just brought up, ticker symbol NEM.
Yeah,
So it's kind of moving in a similar sort of direction. I'd like it to pull back a little bit further, maybe towards 36. That's what I can see here on the chart. Yeah, no, I think it's got all the confluence there. You've got the trend line, you've got the two moving averages, and this kind of resistance actually from back here as well. Kind of coming in line there. So 36 is one of those potentially good time to get in on kind of a long-term view, not so much a trading view, because obviously you can see the value of this stock is, if you were to kind of start a trade here and move up to here, it's only really about 10, 12%, something like that. So it's not the most exciting play. But people do like the kind of slower moving stocks. Do you like slower moving stocks, or are you more of a fast kind of action guy? I
so
think
it
I know the answer.
depends on the stock. I stick with mostly the large cap. I like the large cap trading style.
Mm.
And Ursa Capital asked a question: which stock you guys made the biggest profit on? So if the question is related to in the last month or so, I would say Tesla would be the biggest that I made profit on. Anything comes to your mind, Sean, in the last month?
I mean, even in the last month, obviously Tesla definitely, but even in like a broader sense of the term, with Tesla as well, 'cause obviously they've moved kind of massively in the last kind of 3 or 4 years generally. So yeah, Tesla would be my main breadwinner, shall we say?
I see. Oh,
Yeah, it's not.
we got some comments on regarding Lilly. So drop on
Yeah,
Lilly was based on news of Roche releasing an oral GLP-1 to compete with Monjaro. I'm not that familiar, but I understand what's going on. Okay. So thank you, Ryan, for that update. And similarly, there was a negative news on weight loss drug from another company. Okay, so I think that's the reason for that massive drop. I think a lot of different investors also invest in Lilly, so I think that would be probably they'll be salviating to add more to the position, even though the dividend yield is not that great.
so we've got 2,000 viewers. Have we got any more charts for the viewers here?
Yes, we actually have a lot
Yeah.
more left. So let's cover a couple
Well,
of let's try Mara and Hive, and then we will, depending on how much time is left, we can cover the remaining.
yeah, I think we do 3 or 4 more and then call it a day.
Okay.
Yeah,
So which one you Mara? Okay, so
it's
beautiful.
Mara. Yeah.
So Mara was a big name that we used to cover, and Nate used to cover a lot Mara.
Yeah.
So I actually am in a trade for Mara, and I'm pretty much wrapping up with that trade because it's going to expire worthless next week. It has a nice run up since then. For me personally, my levels for Mara is around the 17 16 $17 level, because that's where actually, sorry, I'll correct myself. It's around the 18 19 level, is because that's where majority of the volume shelf is, and it's in that range that I tend to open my options contract in. Now, from your perspective, Sean, I know you're a breakout trader. How does this chart look to you? Because I feel like we had a topping candle around the 2030, and then since then, couple trading days, we have seen a little bit decline.
Yeah, I think with the breakout trading side of things, I mean, you've got a clear resistance here. It looks like we're kind of coming back down to that level, albeit gradually. But it's tricky because you've had that kind of breakout move already, so to speak. So let's zoom in a bit so you can see it a bit clearer. Obviously, we've broken this line and we've just absolutely gone for it. Probably Bitcoin helped that as well. But I would be interested if it was to get back to this kind of 2280 level. Be interested in the position. I'd like it to kind of travel sideways a little bit more just to bring up the moving averages to give me a bit of extra confidence. But yeah, I mean, obviously it's broken out here, but you can also break out on a second term as well. So that's, I'm looking for a bounce there, basically. Keep a fairly nice tight stop loss, maybe around 20, 21. If you're feeling a bit more riskier, you can probably bring it down below this trend line here, which has been obviously acting out since mid parts of April. Yeah, no, I like it if it gets back down to 2280, which can happen in a few hours trading with this stock. As you can see, it's very volatile. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, next one is HE. It's Hawaiian Electric.
Oh, I thought we were going to have a look at Hive quickly.
Hive. Okay, all right,
Yeah,
let's do.
we'll have a look at Hive because I can see Hussein is very interested in Hive. Yeah, I mean, again, similar sort of thing to Mara. It's a bit more consolidated actually than Mara. What I'd be looking for immediately here, obviously, we've got a bit of a trend line there, and we've got it kind of expanding more so here. So I'd be looking at it to kind of break out that zone. Oops. If we zoom out, probably see a bit of resistance. I've done a few annotations on this chart, as you can see.
Mhm.
Not too sure why I did that. Probably just double bottom, get a bit excited, drawing some lines. And that's my next point of next target, really. So that is, what's that, 460, which from here is about 10%, slightly over. Yeah, it's a tricky one. It's kind of increasing, but if it blasts out of this channel, then fantastic. Any thoughts?
No, no thoughts on this one because I
No.
haven't traded Hive. I stick with Mara because that's the range I've identified on that one. But I agree with you, man. It's like you would want to wait for that trend break, but that resistance of 460 seems like it's a big resistance there.
We've got some breaking news, I think, if it's true, in the comments. Biden drops out.
That's definitely a breaking news, and I mean, it's been telegraphed for a while now that's going to happen this weekend. So finally, the news comes out. Let's jump.
Yeah,
We have 3 minutes. Let's try to cover at least two more. Let's cover HE Hawaiian Electric.
that news is true, by the way. Everyone's talking about it on X. This is probably what we're going to hear now for the next 5 or 6 hours. It's just constant Biden talk. But yeah, anyway. Sorry, what did you say?
H-
HE.
H-
I distracted myself, much like the viewers. I'm sure we'll hear lots of coverage on that this evening. HE, what is going on here? That is one hell
it's
of a jump
a
up.
it's a electric company, Hawaiian Electric, and unfortunately, it has a Wall Street has a sell rating on this one.
That's interesting, given its 35% move on Friday.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a big gap up right there.
It is. I
I,
think,
I would not chase the stock if I was not already in the stock.
no, I think the only thing I'd be looking at here is this kind of $15 level. Because you can see the resistance back on the left side of the chart here. September last year and turn of the year ish. If you can get down there, then maybe. But you'd probably have to learn about the stock or the company, learn about the company, figure out what they do, whether it's a good investment in the first place. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a swing trade potential, not so much a day trade potential, because you could get burnt on this if you day
This
traded
is
this.
yeah, I agree. And just looking at the how the stock has behaved, if you look at the monthly candle, you will not like that big long drop on the stock with one bar.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah. Oh wow. Oh
yeah,
wow.
yeah, exactly. So this stock can burn you. It's definitely something to be very. If I would be doing this, I would scalp this. It would be
Yeah.
I'll be on watching the seconds and the minutes chart. Not this is too long of a.
One thing
Okay.
I would say is consistent volume increase since obviously that big red candle. The volume has been much higher generally rather than before that. So I guess the traders have been trading this one actively. That's for sure.
All right, so I think we have a minute left. We can probably cover one more. Let's cover WULF. It's Wolf. So it's Terra.
Wolf. Yeah.
And what did they do? Let's see.
Let's jump into the daily chart here.
They're a
See what's
digital
going
asset technology company, develops, owns, and operates Bitcoin mining facilities in New York and Pennsylvania. Oh, it's a
on.
local
Oh,
company.
another miner.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's around kind of $5, so it's just over a penny stock in my book. Anything under a $5 mark is a penny stock. It's moving in the right direction. Again, similar to kind of most miners we've looked at today. So obviously Mara kind of got an upwards channel. Hive as well with an upwards channel. This one you can kind of visualize it already on the chart. It's just kind of this one is a good example of the trend is your friend. Would you agree there?
Yeah, I agree with this one. Trend is your friend, and also they have a strong buy rating from Wall Street.
Really,
Hmm.
it'd be interesting to dig into this company, um, perhaps a bit more. But from a technical point of view, I probably wouldn't enter this in terms of like a trade as such, unless it was to break this trend line, kind of in a negative fashion, maybe down towards the kind of 50 moving average. But if it's related to Bitcoin, then obviously you've got to kind of watch Bitcoin as well. It's one of those stocks.
Yeah, I think that's true with all the Bitcoin mining company, as it
Yeah,
sounds. So yeah, Sean, I think that was we're pretty much a little bit over time from our show standpoint, but
yeah, it's been
uh,
fun.
first of all, I want to appreciate and say thank you to all the viewers who gave us a lot of ticker ideas. You know, it's always good to get all these different tickers. I Some of them I have put them on my watch list as well. So thank you so much, everybody. And there were a lot of comments from folks. So appreciate all the news and updates from you guys. We really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Sean,
and
anything else from your side before we wrap up?
yeah, big thank you to Wolf as well for letting us use the platform, expanding the audience slightly there. Obviously, 2.6 viewers in today, which is fantastic. Keep them coming in. We're doing this every Sunday from 6 p.m. UK time, and I think that's 1 p.m. on the
East
Eastern
Coast.
Coast.
Yep.
I know it's a bit of a strange time for a Sunday, but you can always watch it in the pre-recording, post-recording even. But yeah, just be careful out there. Obviously, it's the start of the earnings season. Pretty much is all heating up this week. Just be careful, don't get too excited, trade safely, position wisely. Obviously, there's lots of volatility around these times. And obviously, we've got PCE and various news articles, so be careful of those this week as well. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a good week. Obviously, you can follow both of us on X, Sean Trades for me and Invest K for Kaye. I think it's going to be a fun week. Yeah.
Looking forward to it, and trade safely, guys. And we will see you next week, same time, same place.